Hey everyone, it's MezFi Meets episode 7 with Lee Eaton from Independent Reserve. How are you, mate?
Awesome. Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome, man. Lee and I have known each other for a couple of years now. We've chatted about Independent Reserve's local services and service offerings to businesses, as well as a crypto investor myself. Lee is with Independent Reserve, as I said, for 3 years or so. He's been with them. Why don't you talk about how you came to start working with Independent Reserve, and maybe a bit how you got into the crypto space in general as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like everyone else, I guess, I came to crypto through my own, interest in the space, which developed over a period of time. The actual specific story about it, it's kind of interesting, I guess. I was sitting at my desk. I used to work in a fairly traditional wealth manager. My background was in advice, predominantly for high net wealth and family office spaces, in the family office space. And, one day I meet this guy, and he'd made a stack in crypto, and I kind of was chatting to him. I'd heard about it, like everyone else. I'd heard about it, kind of dismissed the space, didn't really know much about it. And he'd made all this money, and he kind of said to me like, I'm thinking about what to do with some of the proceeds, and I've got a few projects on the line. He'd made enough that I kind of thought, well, you don't really probably have to work too much, right? And he said, no, you don't understand, because and I said, well, crypto at this point. Let me put some more detail about that. So at the time when I was speaking to him, it was around about the 2017 sort of bull run, and things had gone crazy. Things had really dropped off. And in my kind of, basic understanding at the time, I thought, well, that was it. The market's done. Yeah. This guy had managed to cash out right at the top, absolutely nailed it.
Amazing.
And I said, well, look, that's now done. So I guess you can look forward to other stuff. He's like, no, you don't understand. Like Bitcoin, it's just getting started.
Yeah, wow.
And I thought to myself, he goes, me and my brother, we're actually planning to do something big, and you should really look into it. And he was the guy, actually, funnily enough, you probably know him, and I guess he wouldn't mind saying this, it was actually Dan Roberts from Iris Energy. He was the guy, and this is before Iris Energy, which is now a NASDAQ listed, industry leading, Bitcoin mining and now cloud computing, a data center platform. It was actually he and his brother, and the project he was talking about was starting that business. And actually, he was the guy who put me in touch with Lasanka Pereira, who's one of the co-founders here from Independent Reserve. And he put me in touch with Lasanka, and Lasanka came across to my old office. And this is back in 2017, 18-ish, I can't remember exactly. And he was there to kind of pitch the idea of putting Bitcoin into our clients' portfolios at that time, which, we probably told him it was so early, and I didn't understand Bitcoin, probably told him to get out of our office. You know what I mean? A few years passed, but the conversation in my ear with Dan was still ringing in my ear. I thought, you know what, I got to go and have a look at this Bitcoin thing. Took the time, started doing some study, kind of went, actually, this thing's actually pretty cool. Started buying some Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff. And then when Lasanka reached out to me probably 2-3 years again, this is sort of around late sort of 2020, I guess, said to me, he's reached out to me again. He's like, well, maybe now's a good time to start selling some of this Bitcoin to your clients. And I said, I'll do you one better. I've completely come around this idea. And I said, how about I come and help you sell it?
Amazing.
And that's kind of how I got into it. And that's kind of how I started with Independent Reserve. And I got to know LP, and he got me sort of started here. And it's just, I've never looked back.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I met Lasanka. I was introed to him when I was in Singapore about a year ago, I think it was now. And he was, an enigmatic character, all about crypto, really excited. I know he's gone to run the Singapore arm of Independent Reserve now. But, he and his business partner started Independent Reserve. I mean, one of the earliest cryptocurrency exchanges in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there's a bit of back and forth. So I guess the term frenemies applies. So there's a number of us who started as BTC Markets, and there was CoinSpot. Everyone started around the same time. Yep. And so all three of them claim to be kind of the first. And I don't get the details. I mean, I wasn't around there. So it was Adrian Shazlozny and Lasanka, another co-founder, Adam Tepper, who sadly in 2015 had a fatal accident and is no longer with us. But
sorry to hear that.
Adrian and LP are still very well known. But I guess the origin of that was back in 2013. There was the difference was one incorporated at one time, one opened their doors for business at another time, and like so they all kind of have all three of us have a kind of a claim to being first, but like by which metric you kind of measure it by is kind of determinant. But we've all been around since 2013, and all businesses have sort of grown with the industry. We've all gotten better. We've all been sort of very collegiate along that time, and very much aligned in, I guess, in growing the industry and growing industry in the right way.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I've got great respect for Independent Reserve, CoinSpot, BTC Markets, all the guys that you talk about obviously do business the right way. But obviously doing business in Australia as a crypto exchange may change in the years to come due to the recent Treasury papers. How do you guys see your role, or how the market's going to move in terms of crypto exchanges, in terms of different players, if it was to go down the path of everyone needing AFSLs and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think naturally there's probably going to lead to some consolidation in the industry. That's just the nature of the kind of business. There's going to be sort of, I guess, regulatory capital and certain amount of assets that you need to sort of keep as part of that license conditions. I mean, we have yet to see the exact details of that license, so we'll kind of wait to be seen.
Yep.
But I know Adrian and Lysanka from day one have always said, regulation's probably going to come, and we need to build ourselves, to spec for the fact that most likely there's going to be like an equivalent, if not the Corps Act, just kind of applied to crypto exchanges, and you're going to need a license. So from day one, at least the Independent Reserve experience has always been, let's engage with regulators, let's engage with policymakers, let's build things as if the Corps Act was on us today. So from the very get-go, it was kind of going to be, ready to go. So in 2021, Independent Reserve kind of officially kind of expanded off into Singapore, which you're probably aware of.
Yep.
And we were the first exchange of 170 global exchanges to get our license from the Monetary Authority of Singapore, the MAS, the MAS.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. That was a real coup for you guys.
And it was a big thing, and we're really proud of that. And part of that, and I guess the part of the reason we were successful is that business had already been set up. Like it was going to be a business to meet the conditions of at least the Australian Corps Act from day one.
Yep.
So you bring us the Corps Act tomorrow, hey, fantastic, we're ready to go.
Yep.
Because we've kind of always assumed that that's the way it was going, and that's the way we should be built to spec. And people, often talk, particularly in crypto, regulation's coming. It's like, yes, if regulation's coming, you kind of need to be prepared that it might be a higher standard than what you're currently operating.
Absolutely.
And so that was, there was more to it than that, because, we have a great compliance team who did a lot of work and a lot of engagement with the MAS to sort of show that we had all the, solid fundamentals like, financial reporting and segregation of client accounts and security, protocols around security and all this type of stuff, right? And that's just, the tip of the iceberg. So we had a good team that made sure that was all there. So we were able to we be the first. And so I guess we're pretty confident that, look, at least in the Australian context, that they bring an AFSL regime out tomorrow. We go, great. There's minimal, if any, changes that we may need to make. And that we're already hopefully going above and beyond what those requirements would already be. I can't speak for the other exchanges, but I suspect many of the prominent players, you kind of hope to think they're already thinking that way as well. I guess time will tell. The running joke is always, of course, regulations coming in 18 months, and we said that 18 months ago. Anyway, we're kind of still saying that today.
Yeah. I mean, is that kind of how, like, the Bitcoin ETF, it was coming. It took 10 years, I think it was, from the first filing for it to finally get here. Yeah,
exactly. And the ETFs are here now. And certainly, I mean, one of the great things about working in an exchange, you see a really sort of a good broad segment of everything that's happening in the Australian crypto ecosystem, but also what's happening and developing in Asia through, through our sort of efforts in Singapore and Southeast Asia. And what you kind of see is just a lot of different segments, like I said before. So you see everyone from, I guess, your retail individuals through to crypto native businesses. So, the businesses now that, receive funds in crypto, pay their customers in crypto, and are really crypto native and rely on the crypto ecosystem. So maybe they're, a business that audits smart contracts, or maybe they're a remittance house that now use USDT for cross-border payments, whatever it happens to be, right? Across into, I guess, new money is not the way to put it, obviously, because they're TradFi business, but new to crypto. So people who are exploring it. So maybe it's it's wealth managers now, or maybe it's financial advisors whose clients are now looking to get into it, and they're looking for, so you see a broad segment of businesses and broad segment of experiences and broad, understanding of the crypto space. And, at least full time, like I mentioned before, I guess I started looking into the crypto space in, say, 2017, but I guess I was full time from early 2021. So going on a bit over three and a bit years now. And even over that 3 years, and it's a bit analogous of just crypto, how quickly it moves, even over that 3-4 years, which has been now sort of one full, I guess, cycle, a typical sort of 4-year cycle, I've seen a very dramatic shift in the attitudes, particularly from people outside the crypto space, and their attitude towards Bitcoin and crypto as being far more of a mainstay, asset.
How much
legitimate asset?
How much of that do you think is to do with the price? Like, being out there at 70,000. I mean, it feels a lot better and a lot more confident, with Bitcoin being at the level that it is, I imagine, than say last year when it got down to as low as 15,000 or so.
Absolutely. No, there's definitely a connection there, without doubt. I mean, the people who are really in the crypto space know that's a very cyclical business, and they know that these things happen. But I can tell you from, I guess, the exchange's point of view, in 2020, things were going great. And at the end of 2021, I guess things had come off just a little bit from those sort of November peaks in 21.
Yeah.
But things were still going really well. Fast forward into 2022, and then we had Celsius and Luna, and later on we had FTX, and those same people like, hey, cool business, was now kind of like, oh, I guess it's dead again, right?
Yeah.
And that definitely happened. And even the crypto native businesses, the people who did believe in the longer term, they all go dormant, you know what I mean? So during the bear market, things really do turn, and then with that positive price action, you start getting, those crypto businesses that were surviving on the smell of an oily rag were able to raise funds again. You know what I mean? Things thaw, right? And things start coming back with the price. So the price definitely helps. And right now, the attitude, I would say, is from the conversations is one of sort of definitely anticipation, right? We're dealing with a lot of people who were in previous cycles or crypto native businesses, and they're all ready to get ready. They all kind of feel like the inevitability of this sort of cycle is starting to happen, and perhaps we'll probably start seeing the real action towards the later end of this year, or even early next. And so right now, everyone's kind of definitely the conversation we're having is kind of gearing up, which is great because Bitcoin is like 68,000 US, and it feels like we're just warming up.
Yeah, no, it's right on the previous ATH right now, prior to this cycle. I mean, Ethereum's way lower. So I have Normie friends who right now, in the last few months, I won't name names, but he knows who it is if he hears the podcast. He's a traditional investor, and in the last few months has been asking me, what should I get into, and blah blah blah. And I've said, Ethereum's great right now because since the Bitcoin ETF came on, Bitcoin's back at ATH and then above, but Ethereum sort of slid back a bit. I mean, do you see, and I mean, again, like this is not financial advice, obviously, but, do you see Ethereum sort of following a similar trend? Because, the volumes and everything with ETH definitely lagged compared to previous cycles with the Bitcoin ETF going and the ETH ETF not coming on. Do you see maybe ETH sort of, bounding forward now that the, that ETH ETF is on?
Yeah, I mean, I think there has been definitely this cycle was led out of the bear market, undoubtedly by Bitcoin, and talk about the ETF and the inflows, the positive price action. Everything still follows Bitcoin as the North Star.
Yep.
But Ethereum, this cycle, I think, compared to sort of other cycles, look, there's probably some good things and probably some things to keep an eye on. Is that Solana has really come out.
It has,
obviously, there has been a lot of activity on Sol. And I've said this a few times, even Solana, it's not perfect. And we know Ethereum is a bit more reliable, but tends to be a little expensive.
Yeah.
Solana's nice and cheap. It sometimes doesn't always work.
Yeah.
But the meme coin stuff that's happening on Solana, for example. I know the question's about Ethereum, and I'll get back to that.
That's all right.
But Solana has kind of taken away a little bit of the shine, and there's a little bit of a question going, well, okay, if Bitcoin's the king, where are all the smart contracts going to be developed?
Yeah.
And I think when I look at the industry sort of from the inside, it still feels like the serious work is being done on ETH.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, the serious work is still being done on ETH. The real applications that I think a lot of businesses will probably really use, particularly the stablecoin activity. I know there's some competitors to the various stablecoins on ETH, but broadly speaking, I think a lot of the serious work and a lot of the existing work has already been done on ETH.
Yeah, for sure.
And the serious businesses are continuing on that. That doesn't mean the stuff that on Solana is not kind of impressive when you look at some of those, various DEX tools or whatever that allow you to go and trade meme coins or whatever and Sol. They look so slick. They look great.
Do, yeah.
They've kind of not come out of nowhere, but they've really popped up and they look really great and they really compare. But I still feel like the conversations I'm having and the serious devs that we're talking to in Australia are still doing mostly stuff on ETH. And these layer ones, they're all about community, but that community is really just a term for people doing stuff.
Totally.
People building things that are actually going to be used for businesses that really propel the industry forward. So to answer your question, yes, I think Ethereum is still very, very active. Bitcoin still, I guess, it's different, right? Bitcoin, there's Ethereum, but there's definitely room for a few sort of kings in the layer one space.
Yep.
And exactly how they'll pan out, but ETH is still very much in the middle of all that.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. And Solana has really had its breakout moment this cycle. I totally agree with you. Solana meme coins, have just been going off. I'm still a bit back in. I've been looking at ordinals and all that sort of stuff. And Sol, I haven't quite gotten my head around it. I mean, I've got some. I'm holding a bit of Sol probably, but in terms of getting into the meme coins on it, I haven't quite gotten there yet. I'm what would you call? I'm not an early adopter by any stretch of the imagination. I like to watch things and sort of come at it with a bit more of a level head, I guess. So I'm more of an ETH guy for sure, and like MezFi's being built on ETH for that reason as well. But what you're saying is correct as well about the cost. You have to watch for the gas fees. Sol's always cheap, but it does break down. So. But it's coming. Like there's no two ways about it. The only thing I'll say is that after the ETH ETF announcement, I read somewhere the price action on ETH, the increase from about 3,100 to 3,700 or 3,800, it increased by the entire Solana market cap in one day.
Yeah.
So it's still like it's second and then distant third, but Solana's definitely coming.
Yeah, exactly right, and that's definitely hopefully what I said comes across in that way is that Ethereum is still too big to be ignored, and there's still so much. And
for sure, yeah. So what about the Stacks guys and the guys who are all about building on Bitcoin? I mean, obviously you guys are an exchange, so you're happy to facilitate the exchange of any coins for any coins. Have you guys built in any ordinals or layer 2 or stuff from Bitcoin into the independent reserve platform, or are you guys sort of just sitting back and waiting to see what happens with that?
Yeah, look, it's definitely a bit of a wait and see. I mean, all the various layer 2s are really interesting for us. I think in terms of, obviously, we're really keen on supporting the network and the ecosystem. Given who we are, I guess our core competency really is being that fiat to cryptocurrency bridge.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we are. We're a volatility product predominantly, and what we like to see as an exchange is lots of trading.
Yeah.
So anything that helps promote general trading and activity, particularly when it comes to the conversion between sort of fiat to crypto.
Yeah.
Look, we're all for it. That's our core. Given that that's our core business, a lot of the stuff in the layer 2s and the like, it's important to us, but until it becomes sort of necessity for us, it's kind of better that people around that space are doing that as their core competency.
Sure.
Makes sense. Certainly, a lot of people say, hey, for example, can you offer a staking on ETH, for example? And it's something that we would love to have because, it would be great for us to kind of, go, hey, we can offer you staking. You can buy your ETH on us and then you can stake it on us. And those kind of things would be great. Yep. But there is a host of questions about, everything from custody to, the compliance and the regulatory aspect of it.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And so right now, how would we practically implement those things? There's a lot of people out there who are kind of focusing purely on solving that problem. And I'll give you a great example. We would love to do that stuff, but there's like, just to give you one simple question, like so the previous cycle, Celsius, for example, came to us, and Celsius were like, hey, we'll have to offer some yield. You guys have got, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of, potentially, client assets that are sitting there in cold storage. What do you want to do something with it? We're like, well, they're not our assets for starters, And the thing for them was kind of like, well, for them to do that, even if we offered it as kind of like a white labeled solution or whatever, it would still necessitate us taking that security aspect and handing it over to Celsius.
Yeah.
Which is something Adrian just said, no, flat.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it. We would never compromise on.
Yeah, the counterparty risk on that is just crazy for sure.
Yeah, you're right, and this is the perfect example. Is like, so Celsius will, like, at least on face value, out there doing that lending and all that kind of bit well and generating people yield and supposedly in a safe fashion. But there was the simple question of custody was when it came into it, and we said no, we just can't take the risk because these aren't our assets, they're client assets, and it turned out to be one of Adrian's awesome decisions.
I mean, seriously, guys, like that was one of the biggest, and I can't remember who it was that said it, but it was a president of the United States, I think, who said, what you don't see is all the decisions that I made to not do things that avoided disaster. And clearly, like you guys, that made a really great decision on that one. That's for sure.
Yeah. Adrian, he's a good, shrewd operator, and like one of the things he never compromises on is security. So whenever it comes to, if it looks great, let's look at it. But as soon as it compromises any level of security, you can bet your bottom dollar he's not going to take that risk on.
Yeah.
And he's done that a number of times, which is sort of validates why he's so to the point of being paranoid about security, and it's why we've never had an incident. But you've got to, so these new things will come, but you've just got to be slow and just take your time to really assess the risks, because if we had a security risk, I mean, that's kind of our business and that's kind of our name.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so those, I guess that's the challenge with a lot of these new things that look great. They've got to kind of be battle tested, and we've got to make it actually make sense in a security context.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, building a platform at the moment, I have to take that security risks in mind with everything that I do. And I wasn't aware, but it doesn't surprise me that you guys haven't had, a security breach at all. And that's a great claim to fame. I mean, you can't say that for a lot of the big overseas exchanges. There have been hacks and exploits and all sorts of stuff with a number of the other guys. So that's a real feather in the cap that you guys have maintained that clean sheet, so to speak.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's definitely something we focus on and internally is talked about a lot. So whenever and we get approached by people all the time who are like, hey, we'd love to do this, we'd love to do that. And not that I can claim to have sort of Adrian's experience a lot of stuff, but I know that as soon as there's any sort of like anything that requires a modicum of security to be even tested, it's going to be a no.
Yeah, for sure. Totally get that. Well, then I guess something that's more, or less, more battle tested, less, pie in the sky and what have you is tokenized securities or tokenized assets, which obviously have been for a few years now a really big, sort of play. And that's obviously what we sort of came together about originally was, that MezFi is trying to, tokenize Mez funds on ETH, and we would sort of have in discussions about that. I mean, have you guys actually thought about whether, tokenized products could be offered on the platform? Is that something that you've looked into?
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, it kind of comes down to this regulatory piece. So for us to list a token, for example, on our exchange, we need to go out and get a legal opinion and all this kind of stuff to say, hey, is this thing a financial product or not? And if it is, obviously that then raises the question, well, are we appropriately sort of licensed to sort of deal with that?
Yep.
So the overarching kind of regulatory piece, which we're all kind of waiting for, is going to be really important, I guess, to that.
For sure.
And so once, assuming we go down the path of getting the license, which I think undoubtedly we would, that's going to really change that thinking a lot as to what gets listed and what doesn't. Just purely from, a mechanical point of view, for us as an exchange, we need to create an efficient market. So we need volume, we need market makers, we need trading to go on. So illiquid assets, I guess if they were to be liquid, tokenized, whether it's tokenized anything, right? If it's a liquid, it's going to be a challenge for us to sort of host natively as a sort of something on the exchange. But that doesn't mean we wouldn't have couldn't look at the idea of something like a marketplace for low liquidity things or something. It's one of these things you kind of just got to wait until it happens.
Yeah.
But broadly with the theme, and I know MezFi is a great example of this, but businesses using the crypto rails to deliver a more efficient way of distributing value through real world assets is an idea that's certainly taking place in serious discussions in this cycle. And businesses are really starting to go, oh, that actually makes sense, right?
For sure.
For people who aren't sort of necessarily super familiar with that, I mean, imagine if you had you can tokenize anything. We've now got tokenized US dollars. We've got you can tokenize pretty much whatever you'd like. But in terms of a value transfer, let's say we tokenize, I don't know, your car, the ownership of your car. And right now, a perfect example is like how much does it cost and how much hassle is it to go and change over car ownership? You've got to write out notes and you've got to take it here, you've got to take it there. Imagine if you just pull out your phone and you've got it on a blockchain and you can just QR code it and it's done, right? It's what a world we could live in where you could do that with kind of anything. Your house, right? You could do it with the deed of your house. You could do it with anything. Just tapping everything and you're valuing transfer. And really, you can only do that through like something distributed like a blockchain. Like I've got, I do a podcast and I've even got, I've got to go. I don't know if I can say this or not, but I've got, I know Lucas Cullen, who's an old school ETH developer, is going to come along and have a chat to us. I won't do it, but some of the stuff that he talks about tokenizing, I'm just like, how do I get into that? Because, right? You can tokenize it. Like I said, you could tokenize your car ownership. You could tokenize your bet slip. You could tokenize
everything.
And the rails and the slickness and the smoothness becomes amazing. I guess going back to the question is like, okay, but what happens when you want to tokenize small things and trade them and the ETH fees are expensive? There's still these kind of real world problems you kind of work through, but the concepts there, the ideas, and a lot of people are coming around to the idea that's actually a really powerful idea, and that's a real killer use case for a lot of blockchains. Totally,
and what you say is right. I think the gas fees are a hard one. I think that's why Solana, it seems like a great layer one to be able to do these kinds of things on. I know PayPal have just released their stablecoin on Solana. And it just makes a lot of sense. Also layer twos. I mean, have you guys ever played with the idea of, a layer two? I know there's Base, obviously. We shouldn't talk about the competitors, but, they have their layer two. Have you guys thought about having an IR layer two on Ethereum or on another chain, perhaps?
Oh, look, we're deep in the weeds and we think about all this stuff. Actually the real challenge of being an exchange in Australia is that we have a list, this long, and we have bandwidth to kind of look at this much.
For sure.
And that's actually the real challenge when it comes to a lot of the stuff is that the nice to have list is just so much longer than what we can actually practically deliver.
For sure.
So look, if we had unlimited devs, absolutely we'd be looking at all this stuff. But there's a real world cost and time delay, which is probably the biggest challenge when it comes to this. The potential for crypto is so large to be applied to so many circumstances and so many businesses, right? But there's only limited bandwidth of developers that can actually go and chew. There's just too much indigestion right now to get through all this work. So right now, like Independent Reserve is very much focused on, just doing the upgrades to the mobile app and the actual exchange. You've probably seen we've recently launched Margin and a few of these things, and they all, they've all got to be built, they've got to be tested, they've all got to be battle hardened, and all that stuff takes time. So, have we thought about it? We've thought about everything.
Of course.
How much can we focus on? We've got to execute on our core business stuff first, which is the challenge. Well, not a good problem to have.
Yeah, no, for sure. So then I'm interested to know, because like I said, when I met Lasanka, he was jumping into Singapore and really getting excited about the potential over there. How's the Asia business going? Are you guys doing well over there? Have you got further expansion ideas and plans? What's happening with those?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, It's kind of interesting. We opened up Singapore kind of 2020, 2021, kind of got going. COVID. So the initial plan was, open up the business, let's expand into Asia. Singapore's kind of the next kind of natural kind of geographical hop from Australia to expand into Asia. And sort of focusing on Asia is absolutely kind of our expansion plan. And we've made good, very, very good inroads. But the initial plan was to kind of go, hey, we'll kind of have this business over there. We'll cycle through it. We'll get it going. COVID hit. It made it really difficult with staffing and advertising. MAS kind of changed the law on it. We got the license and they said, oh, but you can't advertise a retail anymore. So we've had some speed hiccups there, but there has been a defining moment in, I guess, Singapore's history, and that's when Lasaka, I guess, about a year and a half or so ago, decided to, I guess, pick up the family and move there.
Yep.
And I don't know what you can kind of call it, the LP effect. I mean, anyone who knows him knows he's a one-man hurricane, and a place like Singapore is just not big enough for him, right? So he gets over there, and things just kind of took off, right? There's a date, Lasaka moved there, and business attitude. I mean, not attitude was always good, but like the business, the new clients, the activity, it just took straight off, and it's really going on leaps and bounds now, and it's become a significant part of our overall business.
That's great news.
So Singapore is going very well. Over there, it's a different market. It's a real capital hub. There's a lot of conversion, a lot of inflows from overseas.
Yep.
So stablecoin business over there is huge. We've got great relationships over there with banking because of the license regime. So we are, I guess our next port of call really is, and we've just kind of incorporated in there, is Hong Kong.
Right.
And so we're looking to really sort of ramp up our activity there. And then sort of hopefully once sort of Hong Kong goes the way of Singapore and things are humming over there, then we can kind of look maybe a little bit further east. So maybe that's Dubai. Look, maybe that's somewhere else. Maybe that's South Korea. Look, we don't know yet. Then nothing's really been decided. The goal was to get Singapore humming. LP has kind of done that. And so now we're going to kind of move into Hong Kong and rinse and repeat. And so our goal really is to be that trusted brand, that institutional brand throughout all of Southeast Asia.
Yep.
And we're going to do that by, being, if that means being a little bit slower in terms and, terms of adding on every whiz-bang feature, but it means there's no compromising of our security.
Yep.
Then that's the speed bump that we're willing to sort of cop. Because, we're going to be here throughout the cycles, and we don't want to be in the headlines for taking on unnecessary risk that we get caught with our pants down.
Certainly not. Certainly not. No, that's really exciting. I'm really happy for you guys. An Aussie brand doing really well, going into Singapore. Super proud of you guys for flying the flag out there. And yourself, I mean, I know when Lasaka moved from Sydney up to Singapore, you moved into a bit of a new role in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's funny because up until I arrived, there hadn't really been. LP was the sort of the sales guy, right? So he was the sales guy. He was also the kind of guy who was the conference guy. He was the kind of the face of sort of independent reserve, going out and doing everything.
Yep.
And sort of when I came through, but he was also the COO at the same time, so he was also running the operations, and he was kind of split. So when I sort of joined, it was really to kind of lead the business development aspect of it, and really sort of focus on defining who sort of our core segments of clients are, and build a sales team around executing on going after those various pipelines, which has been just nothing but fun. It really is good to be part of a team that's growing and dynamic and really open to taking new things on. So when LP then moved across into Singapore, well, then he was just obviously focused 100% on executing and making Singapore a successful business and building the team there. And I guess I kind of felt the vacuum behind him to sort of do a lot of the work that he was doing, particularly on the sales and business development side. So it was kind of just the two of us. It was just LP, then it was me, and now we've got a team. I guess we've got there's about three or so guys. So we've got about 6 in the sales team altogether now, and we're really just going out to focus on executing across all of Asia Pacific. So we're spending a lot of time now in every conference we can get to. So Singapore and Hong Kong. We were just in Dubai. Got caught in the floods. I don't think I've told you. Oh wow,
did you? Yeah. Well, maybe we'll have some time to talk about that. I saw some photos. Wow, man, that was crazy.
I'll show you some photos. Yeah, we and like a lot of people got caught in the floods, and we really got caught in the floods, and it was kind of all our fault. But let's definitely jump on that. And LP, like I feel bad for his family. He's got, he's a family man. He's got 2 kids, and he's been spending months. So he's always he's in Thailand, and he's in Malaysia, and he's everywhere right now. and so I'm trying to help as, and crypto's a fast moving business. You've got to get out there. So I'm doing my best to kind of fill in behind him. But like I said, the man moves fast and he's a force.
He does. No, he does, and he is. I agree with you. But you're doing pretty well on the on filling the shoes, especially in terms of getting the name out there. I've seen the podcast that you've started. Really exciting. I remember. I think you must have told me about the podcast last year at the Zodia event, and it started now. So who are some of the people that you've had on there so far, and who have you got coming up? If you can talk about it, I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're really just trying to get that going, and so I guess we've just moved into a new office, which I was saying before. Like literally today is the first day from the new office, so I wish I had like a nice neon background like you instead of this kind of stark white, making my head look all red like a beetroot on here. But but we've just with the podcast, what we really wanted to do is a bit like what you're doing. Is just we really just wanted to showcase the growing and kind of serious side of crypto. We don't want to be a serious show, but we wanted to show there's some real talent, there's some real people with some real expertise, and showcase their stories about how they kind of got into crypto and kind of what dragged them to it, and what are they sort of seeing? What is the industry? What do they see that the industry needs? What are the key issues that they're seeing that need to be addressed? We've had lots of good bits. So Mark Monfort we've had on. We've had Mark. Lawyers. So we had who'd we have? Oh, we had Harry Dell. We had Rob War on last week. We've had Mike Romadis. So actually, it feels like we've had nothing but lawyers there. Sylvia Toe from Bullish. We've had Glyn Jones. So we're up to who have we got coming on? We've got guys like Lucas Cullen coming on the dev side. Yeah, nice. You're going to have to come along, of course.
Yeah, I'd love to
talk tokenization. And what we really want to do is just show that there's a lot of the outside of crypto. There's a lot of. I'm sorry if I've forgotten anyone because we've had heaps of good guests on.
It's all good. We'll chuck all of the episodes under the YouTube link so people can see everyone that's been on the IR podcast as well.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Thank you. No and so this is going to be our new studio. So we're going to take this place out. We're going to get some nicer lighting, and so we're going to try and level up a little bit and continue to get great sort of particularly a real Aussie and Asia Pacific focus.
Yep.
And one of the things, if I can, just one of the things I think that's sort of been great about that whole experience is when you speak to a lot of the people people who've come into crypto, it's not like they're like the outside of the industry kind of has a perception it's just a bunch of tech guys. Totally. Or it's just a bunch of guys who are just like degenerates who are just trading Dogecoin or something like this. But the truth is it's actually really, really different. I mean, we had Rob War on last week, and the guy was a particle physicist before he was a banker with NAB for 10 years, you know what I mean? And these people are like, and the lawyers, and I could go on the list when I run through the list of credentials, and they've all kind of gone, you know what, this tech is new, it's misunderstood, but it's happening and it's real, and there's an opportunity here which is going to be bigger than Ben-Hur. And people like yourself, Jerome, who've come, obviously you've got a traditional financial services background and using using the tech to apply to a better user experience for your investors. And I think, those kind of stories just need to be we just need to, as an industry, just standing on the rooftop and shouting it out because people listen to that and you're like, you know what, I've kind of missed this. We had the guys from Vicara as well, and they talked some great use cases of the tokens they're seeing and relate them back to real world. And I've had some feedback even from Mark Riccio from Vicara said to us, he's, people they've been trying to get into crypto and explain the benefits for a long time had sort of gone, oh, you know what? A bit like my experience I had with Dan Roberts is like, I'd kind of just dismissed it and then kind of went, oh, hang on, I've missed something here. And then you've joined the fold.
Totally.
So one person at a time. But yeah, it's going well.
That's great. No, I'm great to hear it. I'm really excited to keep on hearing, listening to the podcast, and I'd love to be on it, obviously. I'd love
We've been officially invited now. You just got to make sure you got to work out a better background for us. Maybe bring us some MezFi purple. Or something.
I'll bring you some MezFi purple. I'll get some IR blue. Like we'll figure it out. No worries at all. Yeah, great. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I totally agree with you. I think, the way that I got into it, and I mean, I haven't really talked about how I got into it before. So, I guess that's a good opportunity. When I first heard about crypto, I got a CoinSpot account. I'm sorry, it wasn't Independent Reserve. And Yeah.
We can fix that.
Yeah,
It's not too late.
of course. I have an independent reserve now, just to be clear. So yeah, and I think I think it was some Ethereum or maybe it was some Bitcoin, but it was way back when. And I just bought it, and then it sat there, and then I sold it, and that was it. I think 5 or 6 years went past, and I think I saw, all the price action that was happening, and it excited me. Let's be honest. Like I think that's with a lot of people. I have being in financial services and being a traditional investor at times. Stocks and whatever. When you see the kind of volatility and the kind of highs that Bitcoin was achieving, it's just exciting. But I also, being someone who is inherently conservative, bit of a late adopter in a lot of things. I sort of took a while to see, because as I'm sure like Bitcoin had a bit of a dark web kind of reputation at the beginning. Like it was basically just for laundering money and for for illicit people to pay each other and not be able to be tracked. And I think as I learned more about Bitcoin and things like Chainalysis, for instance, and figured out, hang on a second, this is actually something where you can actually, if you use it properly, there is more transparency around what it's being used for than traditional money. You can actually stop actors more easily, and people like Chainalysis actually get in there and alert governments to where things are going bad and where things are being used badly. And actually, crypto has gotten to this point, and this is, you talk about the conferences. I went to a few conferences. I wasn't at Token. What was the last one I went to? I was in Japan. I was at the Japan FinTech Festival. And one thing that we were talking about is how AML, anti-money laundering, and KYC in traditional finances is less onerous than what it is in crypto. All of these people think that crypto is such high risk stuff, but with tools like Chainalysis, you can actually have a better view of your investor and their profile and their risk and what they've done than with the traditional tools. And I think that's why, to your point, so many lawyers are in the space now. Steve Vallis doing what he does, and he brings all the lawyers, all the regulators together. And I think, every conference that he puts on, more and more lawyers and more regulators, more and more normal people see the value. And I think it's just going to grow from there because, what you're saying is right. I think once people see the value, I don't see how you can deny it anymore, and it's only that, I think it's only the volatility that scares people now, to be honest. And I mean, you guys love volatility because the price action is good for you.
Yeah. We like the volatility when it's trending up as opposed to trending down,
For sure.
I think the day Terra Luna went down was probably one of our biggest days of volume, but it was followed by about 7 months of very little activity.
Man.
But it's the speed of the industry is such that it's captured the mind. These learning cycles are just like all the mistakes that were made in crypto. Ironically, are just the same mistakes that were made in TradFi, right? But the lessons kind of get learnt and then moved on in the space of 6 months as opposed to 5 years, I guess.
No, totally. The pace at which crypto moves is just absolutely unbelievable. And everything that's going on here is just crazy. All right. Well, look, we're getting. I could talk all day to you about this stuff, man. But we're getting to the end, I think. Let me ask you something, which I started last week with Lee, who's the head of iStorage, which is a PR and communications firm. I asked him for 3 tips for PR and communications professionals, as well as people in the industry in crypto who wanted to know more about PR. 3 tips about that. Let's go. 3 tips for those people that we're talking about. 3 tips for anyone who hasn't gotten into crypto yet, who's thinking about it. What are 3 tips that you can give them to get to have a safe and exciting journey into the space?
Yeah, very good question. Look, I think first thing starts with spending some time learning about Bitcoin, right? Everything still starts with Bitcoin.
Yep.
If you got to get an appreciation for why Bitcoin is this thing that we all kind of value and sort of see it as this really potentially, this potentially sort of industry sort of changing sort of technology. I know Bitcoin itself is old tech now, but it all starts there, right? Why did it start? What makes what are the security aspects? Everything from the way it's proof of work to cold storage to the peer-to-peer. The way it works, the ethos around Bitcoin is really important, just from a philosophical point of view.
Totally.
So once you sort of get your head around Bitcoin and why Bitcoin has value as this permissionless, irreversible and unstoppable monetary network, then you can kind of go, let's get into the detail a little bit. So if you're ever going to trade crypto, like any new industry, it preys on people's lack of understanding.
Totally.
It's volatile. Everyone's heard about stories of money, and there's a lot of shysters, is that the right word? Or, people out there.
I think that's the right word for sure.
Scammers out there, and the scammers have existed in traditional finance. If they don't have crypto, they'll scam with, gift cards, but you've got to be, the people out there are unscrupulous. So when it comes to it, like, you've got to understand how crypto works so that when we see things that are scams, we're like, that's so obviously a scam. Like, it's really sad when people get hit up by these things. So understand the value of things like security, cold storage of assets, taking responsibility for your private keys. I think, not everyone's necessarily going to get their head around that, but that's a great starting point to go, okay, even if I know I can trust independent reserve to leave my assets on, I still should know how to keep it in cold custody, and I should know what I need to do to keep that really safe.
Totally.
Right? And that's just something that's just good practice. It's kind of like learning a bike, it's learning how to stop. You've got to learn how to get off it safely. So, so Bitcoin is the entry point, and then you can kind of go and cold storage and how to do, and then you can kind of go from there into experimenting more. I mean, if you want to be a day trader and do all that kind of stuff, look, personally, I think just buy and hold Bitcoin. If it's going to $1 million, what do you care if you bought it for 67 or 68,000 or 100,000? If your long-term views it's going to $1 million, just buy it and hold it. Yep. Not financial advice, of course.
Of course.
But and if you want to trade, look, good luck to you. But maybe then you can start experimenting with some of the DeFi protocols. So once you've got that sort of better down, the security aspect better down, you've kind of learned a bit about the kind of types of things the fraudsters will try and do to sort of rug you or take your funds, and you know how to avoid them. Then go and have a play with some of maybe the DeFi protocols. If you want to have a punt on some of the meme coins, just for the experience, and look, I've got my meme coins, but it's just for a bit of fun. Yeah. And it's mostly just to try out the new technology and the new tools.
For sure.
Right? So jump on, buy some Sol, and maybe try a few of the different protocols. Jump on some of the lending protocols and just experience and learn for yourself. And if you're unsure, obviously just start with an amount you can afford to lose.
Totally.
Because as we know, like, if you get it wrong in crypto, there's no take back. So you send the wrong address or you lose control of your private keys. It's a bit like taking your money out of the ATM and losing it at the casino. So security first, understand some of the ethos of Bitcoin and then sort of more crypto more generally, and then sort of play around and get involved with some of the different protocols to see how cool like that sort of decentralized space is. But just be 100% aware of the risks.
Yeah, totally.
So that's probably, I don't know if I gave you 3 tips in there.
I think there's 3 tips in there. I think if we can distill it down, it's learn about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's where it all started. Number 2, be safe and make sure that you understand how to be keep your crypto in cold storage. And number 3 is have fun and go out there and try new things and experiment with an amount that you're prepared to lose.
Yeah, exactly right. Although, if I can give you one other tip, there is a book on Independent Reserve's website that was written. Actually, it was started being written by Adam Tepper, and it was ended up being finished by CEO Adrian.
Okay.
Called Bitcoin: The People's Money. You can download. I'm pretty sure you can download a copy, or get in touch with me, and I'll give you a hard copy.
Yep.
And it was the first book I read when I joined Independent Reserve. And it covers off the basics really, really well. It's a fairly simple read. You can do it in an afternoon. And it just covers off on some of the real fundamentals of the tech and explains it in real simple, easy to understand terms. So Bitcoin, the people's money, jump on the website and have a look at that, or get in touch with me.
Too easy. All right. Well, again, I'll as well as the podcast episodes and all of the links to IR, we'll put a link to the book as well in the YouTube description. So anyone who's looking to download that will be able to do it really easily. All right, Lee. Thank you so much for taking the time today, mate, to sit down and chat about IR, chat about yourself, your origin story, and about, a couple of the unique challenges that you guys and, Australia and crypto users are facing right now. Thank you so much. And I do look forward to coming onto your podcast. I will be holding you to it.
You're on now.
And have a great day, mate. And we will chat soon.
Take care, man.
All right.
In touch. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you want to find out more about MezFi, go to www.mezfi.com. Follow us on X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. You can see our shorts there, and look forward to the next conversation, and see you then.